Hi, hello, and welcome to Equine Voices podcast. My name is Ronnie, and I'm your host for this evening. Now, there was a few little glitches. I'm not sure if this microphone's working, so I think I'm just going off my headset. So if you can let me know that it sounds okay, then that's great. So I shall shortly bring in Susan, Dr. Susan Fay. So our first podcast was over 4 years ago. So I'm really excited. I mean, this is our third one, I think, third or fourth one. So I'm excited to chat to her. And she's going to talk about her new upcoming book, which she's got 2 books coming out, and also her UK trip to the UK next year. Sorry, I'm a bit flustered because I've just rushed to get here and do a few bits. But anyway, sorry, you don't need to know that. Let's go straight in and introduce Dr. Susan Fay. Okay, here we go.
Hello,
Hi, Susie.
It's so nice to see you again after all these years.
You too. So yeah, this is our fourth. I think it's our fourth conversation because we've done a couple where you've been with other people as well. But so I'm going to stop jabbering and just take a breath. Let me just take a breath and breathe. Okay, thank you. So Susie, let's talk about what's been going on with you. But would you like to just give a little brief introduction, first of all, to who you are and what your work is with horses?
Okay. This is so funny because a lot of people ask me, what do you do? And it's like, I don't do anything. That's what's so lovely about this work. It's like there's a lot of training that I went through to get to this point. And I have a PhD in psychology and human psychology because I thought that would be helpful because that's a big place in the equine world where there's a misunderstanding or a lot of things that we can draw from psychology that will help us in our interaction with horses and other equines. So I felt like I needed to go there and get that kind of background, and also in that exploration into the psychology, I really delved into trauma and how it affects the body and the mind and the soul and all these things. So I'm taking a lot of that information and plugging it in to the work that I do with horses and finding just amazing results there. They are no different than us. They suffer from the same mental illnesses that we do, or the mental struggles. So I think it's really critical that we're not only trauma informed, but that we know what to do when we encounter a horse with trauma and how that affects our relationships with them. So that has been a whole lot of my work over the last 4 years, is really delving into that aspect of it, but also looking at the positive things about our interactions with horses and how we can have better relationships with them and how we can begin to communicate with them in a shared language. And, a lot of people use that term of shared language or speaking horse and all that kind of thing, but it's really not that. What I'm trying to do is speak energetically, and it has nothing to do with my intellect, who I am as a human. I'm going to go back to who we used to be as humans and speak to the animals in that way. And I think of the communication I do as really full body cellular communication with another being. So that's really the impetus for all the work that I'm doing. And it's really been exciting. I know I've kind of hit out over the last 4 years. I kind of took a low profile for a while because it just seemed like things were chaotic out there in the horse world, and people were not ready to hear a lot of the things that I was talking about. And it's almost like they had to go experience certain things to get up to speed, I guess, or understanding in some of these things, and that I could talk to them. So, a lot of the people that saw me 4 years ago, I haven't seen them, and then they reappear 4 years later and say, oh, now I'm ready. Now I understand what you were talking about. So that's in a nutshell kind of where I've been over the last few years, hiding out because I am kind of an introvert and I don't really want to be in the spotlight, but I'm finding I need to be in the spotlight as a voice for the horses, not a voice for me, a voice for our horses. And I'm trying to communicate what they need us to know and how they want us to evolve as human beings. So that's my mission right now. So
That's a wonderful mission, and yeah, and a role that I know it's it's not an easy role sometimes. And like you said, you like your own space, and sometimes being around a lot of people, and depending where they are, can be difficult at times. Without sounding judgmental, but it can be very noisy. That's the way I'm going to describe it. It can be very noisy, and a lot of people can relate to that. You go somewhere and it's a busy day. You can go into London. It's beautiful. It's lovely. But when you come away, you just want to. That was a lot of noise, a lot going on, lots of stimulation.
Right.
So, would you like to? Would you like to share any stories that sort of come to mind, that without going into confidence or anything, where you can explain how it works on when you go into a client? How would you initiate that? How would you start that?
This is interesting because it's gotten out to where I don't plan anything. I'm almost, everything I do is about going with the flow and showing up into a space and letting the energy or the horse or that whole dynamic guide me to what I'm supposed to do. And it's like, it's a whole act of letting go and not planning and not trying to be all the human things what we always think we need to do. Like, oh, if somebody calls me, I've got to go in and X, Y, and Z has to happen. I now go in and go, I have no idea what's going to happen. Something will happen, but I don't know what it is. And I'm not going to try to control what it is by fabricating something or pretending to put things together in a certain way. I'm going to go in and I'm going to read the energy of the room, essentially. I'm going to read the energy of the horse, and I'm going to go in and ask them, what do you need in this space? And to the best of my ability, then that's going to prompt me to do certain things with that horse person pair. I usually work only with the person with their horse. I don't work solely on a horse by itself, because I believe that that horse's life, everything that's going on with them, both mentally, emotionally, and physically, is so intricately tied with their person, with their environment, with everything going on. So I'm not going to separate that horse and work on it apart from its whole community, its person. So again, it seems like I've gone from a prescription of how you do something to saying, I don't want to live that way anymore, because a horse is going to show you what they need at any moment. And so if I try to control that situation, the horse doesn't get a chance to speak. And, a lot of what I'm doing here, again, is exploring the horse's world, trying to see life from their perspective. And so many times we've gone in with the horses and said, see the world from the way we do, operate in the world the way we do, be like us. And I'm thinking maybe we should be more like them instead. And so I'm going to go in and see, what is your world like? How could your world and what you have to show us help us be better human beings? And that's my goal. And I'm finding amazing stories from horses about things that they've told me about how to live a life and be happier. So I'm not going in as a human anymore and saying, I'm here to help you, I'm here to fix you. No, I don't do that. I go, what is important to you? How would you like this to go? And then I follow their cues. So maybe a little bit different, a little bit hard for people too, because we're fixers. A lot of people consider themselves healers. And so what do healers and fixers do? They want to fix something that's wrong. And so they'll go into that situation with a horse and say, I see this wrong with you, I see that wrong with you, and that needs to be fixed. Maybe the horse doesn't see it that way. Maybe they don't want to be fixed. Or maybe what we think needs to be fixed is not what they think needs to be fixed. So this is all about my next book that's coming out. I wrote a book. It's called On Point, like in ballet, on point, meaning balance. How do we find that inner balance, that inner strength to operate in the world in a really good way? And it's not just about our inner strength, but really about guiding that horse to find its inner balance points. And I could talk for hours and hours about what experiences have happened when I ask horses 4 questions that guide them to their internal balance point. And I do not put my hands on them, and I merely hold a space that's safe for them. And I watch them transform in front of our eyes and to blossom and to find the essence of who they are, because we didn't go in to fix them. And because we just stood back and said, what do you need? I'll hold a safe space for you. So that's a lot of what I'm doing now. And it's very, very different than what most of us have been trained to do. We've been trained to be fixers, not listeners.
Sorry, interrupt you.
No,
And it's quite hard sometimes to explain. You're doing an amazing job as always, Susie, but it can be quite hard because sometimes the stillness and quietness, as you said, shows a lot more. But when the normal, I'm not sure that's the right word, and this is no reflection on anybody, and myself included, but when you go to see somebody sometimes, you're expected, or you expect yourself to do something and for me it's like sometimes talking. I know when I'm filling the gap, so I'm not saying anything that's not there, but you're talking when all you want to do is just be silent, because actually that's what's being asked for. But when somebody's observing you, then you feel that you need to fill in the gaps sometimes. I don't know if that's made sense. I found that within my work, that sometimes the horses just don't want you to do anything, as you said. They just want you to be there. And that's when things can be presented. And that has happened. Where I've been somewhere and there is not a lot of talking, and I'll apologise saying I'm really sorry, but this might look boring. They'll go, no, I can see there's something going on. I can see from the horse and I can feel it. So, but sometimes it's quite difficult to explain that.
Right. And I think that's so true. And I've asked other people who do body work, and it's almost like it's a performance. Like you have to go in and they have to see something happening on the outside. They have to see you doing something, and then they see validity in that as a human being, right? That's how we've been trained. It's like, I see you doing that and I see the result, and okay, everything's obvious. Well, it's very hard to operate from this other perspective where you're going to go in and you're going to say, I don't know if anything will happen. I don't know what will happen. I'm pretty sure something amazing is going to happen if we stop with deciding what it has to look like or what has to be done. And a lot of times, and this is a recent story that happened, I went in, and of course, I always feel like I'm on display or out there to, get something done, right? Just like you do is when you go and do body work or something. It's like, well, okay, you're here and here's what you need to do. We need to see you doing that. And I'm standing in there and there's people watching, and it's like, okay, I have actually done something. I've spoken to this horse, and he's like, no, I hear what you're saying, but I can't do it right now. I need some time. And for me to go and spend, let's say, 10 or 15 minutes and people are not seeing anything happening, but I know that horse has just considered what I've said, it needs time to integrate it and think about it. So I'm up there and I'm telling people, well, it doesn't look like much happened. And what he needs to do is go and let's go ahead and put him away. And I will bring him back in an hour when we're done with this other horse. Okay, so I'm up there going, okay, I've just in front of all these people said, you know what? We have seen nothing happen. I know something did, but we have not seen it with our eyes. Is that okay? Can I stand there in my truth, knowing I'm going to be an advocate for that horse and going, I'm not going to push you into doing something or make something happen that's going to, everybody's going to applaud and say, oh, goody, look at what the horse did. No, I'm going to take that horse's best interest in heart and say, you know what? You go away and you think about what I said. And if you're ready, when you come back, you can tell me about it. Okay, I'll give you time to think about it. What is the number one thing we do not give horses is time. Time to integrate something, time to think. Okay, so he went away for an hour. I didn't know what he would do when he came back. I have to stand there in front of a whole bunch of people going, I don't know. I may look like a fool. I may look like I don't know what I'm doing, but I have to trust this gut feeling and the information I got from the horse that he needed time. When he came back, blew our minds what this horse did. One of his things, and this gets into storytelling, and part of what my one book was about was storytelling with horses as a powerful agent for change, whether it's a human change or a horse change. What I found out from his people was that they had a story about him, about how he was a baby, how he had a baby brain, and how he just never matured. And now this horse is 7, 8, I don't know, 6 to 8 years old, right? And that's still the story he's been told. And guess what? He plays out the story. He plays out like, I don't have any attention span. I'm goofy. I spook at everything. I just like don't know where to put my feet. I don't know. I can't follow directions. He's playing all the parts to that story they've been telling. When he came back, he told me, I need a new story. I said, what story do you want? One where I'm competent, where I'm old, where I'm a grown-up. I go, okay, we're going to do a new story for you. I told him the story. Now that you're big, you know how to follow directions. You know how to stay, when I tell you what a boundary is, you know what the boundary is. You follow directions. You stay straight in your body. I forget all the different things. You stay quiet. If something's scary, you look to your person. And that's what, I just told him a new story about how he was going to be as a grown-up horse. And he changed that fast. It was unbelievable because I just went up and I said, I'm going to do my part of this and I'm going to give you good directions. I'm going to tell you what I need from you. And that was like, if I'm standing here, here's my boundary space. I'm going to ask that you honor my boundary space and that you stay straight and that you listen to directions and to what I'm saying. He did every single thing I asked. I did not touch him. He turned from being a baby horse that was totally dysregulated, inattentive, all over in your space, to instantly going, oh, this is what a big horse does. They stand next to you and follow directions. And he's a big Frisian. You know how big a Frisian's head, they can go way up high, and his head started way up high. And at the end, when I was talking to him about his new jobs, because he had new jobs as a grown-up horse, his head came down level with me, which is pretty low because I'm only 5 foot tall, right? So he's down here. He's listening to me. He's respecting my space, and I never had to touch him. This is the stuff that I am writing about in my books. We don't have to do all the targeted exercises. We don't have to do all these things to communicate with our horse. We just have to be clear and concise and believe that they can hear and understand what our intentions are. And my intention, I never got big with him. I never did anything other than stand there and talk like I'm talking to you right now. And he understood me. This is what the evolution of horsemanship is. It's not in getting a new technique to make them connect to you. It's not doing any of this other stuff we've been told. It's being different in ourselves and honoring those horses as sentient, intelligent beings. That's all they're wanting from us. and they change just like that. And I could tell you thousands of stories just like that. And because I'm doing energy psychology and energetic communication, doesn't matter how far away I am from that horse. I had a session yesterday with a horse, and he was so dysregulated. He was really unmanageable. He was standing next to his people as I came on a Zoom call with him, and he was all over in their space. They were having to, constantly try to get him out of their space and backing him up, and he was just all over the place, unfocused. I said, okay, what do you think this horse really needs? What is this behavior about? This is where the psychology comes into it. Why is he acting the way he does? Like a little kid that picks on you and pokes you to get attention, right? Because he's missing something. What is he missing? And I said, for me, I think, across the Zoom call, I'm feeling like maybe he's really looking for safety and connection, like safety and comfort and a feeling of being belonging, and a little bit like the other horse, like believe me that I can do this stuff. And so all I do is change myself. What I did on that Zoom call, I said, okay, I'm going to now change my energy frequency by thinking about how it feels when I'm safe and comfortable. I'm not sending him anything. We'll never send any energy to anyone or anything. I change myself. I change my energy signature. As soon as I did that on a Zoom call, probably 1,000, 2,000 miles away from this horse, he changed instantly. I have this on a film, and I will use it in a future class or something that I'm doing. So you can see in real time how quickly this horse changed due to a change in my energy frequency. And that's when I found out, what does he need? And let me model that for him. I will model the answer for him. And if he's interested, he will find that energy out here in the energy field. He will find it. He'll go, wow, let me try that. And there we go. It was absolutely astonishing, really, other than the fact that I do this every day. And so now I would expect that would happen. But I think for a lot of people, they're like, no, we would change us and it would change our horse. Are you kidding? But most people go, well, that you can do that. I can't do that. That's why I wrote this book, because everybody can do this. I'm giving you the formula, the secret formula. It does take work, but everybody can do this. It's based on science. That's my science background. It's based on science, but it looks like magic, but it's not. Right?
I'm glad you didn't say the woo word, because that's
yeah. I talked about the woo word being a way that a lot of people discredit this work, and I will not allow it to be said in my space, because I do not want to discredit it, because I have scientific evidence. I have worked with a veterinarian. We have compiled scientific evidence of energetic changes and physiological changes in the horse based on my change in my energy field. 1,500, 2,000 miles away. Instantaneous change. So that speaks to this whole thing of quantum mechanics, all of that stuff, yes. But how, those are all big terms people use, quantum physics and quantum everything, but how do we do it? Nobody's saying, how do you do it? It's super simple. And that's what I'm trying to get to people. You do these things, it's super simple. You can do this. So I'm like the magician giving away all the secrets, but I think humanity needs to know, because this is our next evolution. So
that was beautiful, Susie. That was a beautiful explanation. Are you aware of a lady called Vida Austin? I think I've said that correctly.
What was that?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I just didn't catch what you said.
Oh, there's a lady called, I think it's Vida Austin. She works with water, and she does freezes petri dishes of water. It's a special process.
Mhm.
And but it's she recently brought out a video, and it was thought, just from a thought that she was looking at the water and what she was thinking, it was frozen in the water. But yeah, she's I can't think. I'm sure it's Veda Austin. She's done loads of studies about water and how consciousness of water, how we connect by showing a photograph or placing a flower on the water for a few seconds, freezing it, and then it has the image of the flower. But she's been doing it with thought process. So that goes along with how our thoughts are like signals that just go across the universe, across the conscious. And so that's how you can communicate with another animal. Because your the work you do, you could apply that to human.
Oh, it absolutely. Yeah.
Sorry, I can hear feedback, so I'm hoping that that's coming out okay.
I'm not hearing any on my end, so
that's okay. It might be just my end. So do you want to tell us a little bit about your book that's coming out? So what difference in that one is it from the first book, Sacred Spaces? Sacred Wisdom?
Oh my gosh. Like, how long do we have, right? You know, I think about when I wrote Sacred Spaces, that was 7 years ago at least. And at that time, it wasn't really safe to speak about a lot of this stuff, especially within the wider equine community. It was a new concept. And so I was pretty safe, I think, when I wrote that book. I was trying to be safe and just kind of gently introduce some ideas, and they've been introduced by other people before me, but I felt like, well, maybe this time for it to go more mainstream. And so really that first book was just an explanation of what I was doing, but now not how I did it, right? It didn't really have a how-to in it. And this next book is really about the how-to. The one that I wrote on storytelling for horses was a really gentle introduction into this bigger book that I'm writing now. And I thought it would give people a chance to kind of practice. So the Woven by Words book that's about storytelling with horses was a fun book that it gives you that chance to go out and play with your horse and see their reactions to you as you talk about a story or you use a story. And it was a way for you to begin practicing a lot of thought and emotion and realizing if they're congruent. Because when you tell a story, especially a story like you would tell to a young child, like a toddler, if you were reading them the story, you would not read it in a monotone voice. You would have pictures in that book that would help you think about the emotion and what the character was going through. And you would add inflections in your voice and emotion to it. And so this first book was really about starting to become more aware of your thoughts, your emotions, and whether or not you spoke words with truth, with congruency. So they were a practice for the human. But what was really neat about it is that the horses respond much the same way to stories as humans do. They love stories. And I can see there's so many different ways that I use stories with horses, especially ones that have been through trauma, that I can help them through that trauma, not by touching them, not by trying to remove the trauma from them, but telling them a story about how maybe another horse or a person got through their similar struggles. And these stories are just so powerful. So that was kind of my little tiny book to introduce people again to some of my work. But then this next book is really taking it to another level. And what we're doing now is really starting to, through this book, form these relationships with our horses that are really soul level relationships, not just connection, because everybody says, oh, I want deeper connection. Yeah. No, horses want us to have soul level connection with them, communion with them. That was what my first book's subtitle. It wasn't connection with horses through science and spirit. It was communion. So I'm looking at something deep and meaningful as terms of a relationship, not a superficial one, not a you do this, or, when I say this, you do that. That's not what this is about. This is about soul level communication. And, I start this book out, and every book that I have, it may seem very, very simplistic. Like the idea that I present, people will probably blow it off, a lot of them, going, why would you do that? If you only knew underneath that simplicity is a complexity that you would not even begin to fathom. How many things that are happening by us doing something very simple. And so this next book, On Point, is about helping the horse find their internal balance, self-regulation, an ability to connect with another being and with themselves in their own body. And so through a process of asking them 4 very simple questions, we can guide a horse to find their own internal balance, to become more self-regulated, and to do it on their own without us managing everything about their life. I want a horse, a partner, a soul level connection that doesn't mean I've got to manage everything about that horse. It's going to be about, I'm going to manage myself through these 4 questions. I'm going to ask them of myself as well as you, and I'm going to ponder them. And when we work as a team, fixing each other, ourselves, not trying to fix the other person or the horse, fixing only ourselves, we become whole and we become better at being a partner. And the same with the horse. And we're clearing out these miscommunication areas. And I always think that, a horse or a person, they can't have a really healthy relationship with another if they're unhealthy within themselves. If they're always looking to fulfill some kind of unmet need through another being's energy or companionship. This is about all of us becoming whole and complete. And then we can have really healthy relationships. And if I go back to that story I told about the horse, when I said I went in and asked him, what are you missing? And it's like, I'm missing safety. I'm missing a feeling of belonging, of being important to somebody. And I go, oh, okay, then I could model safety and comfort. And when I do that, when I model for our horse what they're missing, I strengthen that in myself. So I do a lot of different energies, nurturing energy. Some horses need nurturing energy. So I think about nurturing myself. What does it feel like when I nurture myself? And in the process, I make my body and mind healthier. And I emit an energy that they can connect to, and they can decide, like, oh, I will use that one too, and I can be healthier. So it's this reciprocal kind of a situation that's happening. And I just implore people, like, don't blow off this book because it feels like it's got a simple concept, because it's not at all simple. There are many very complex psychological, neurological, physiological health benefits that you're going to derive if you actually do these things. And the same with your horse. So, as far as finding internal balance, why is it important? It dictates everything, really. And, one of the fun things I think about as you're going through this process with the horses in my new book here is that when they find their internal balance point, they square up on the outside. They become externally balanced, which is a very interesting phenomenon. So I can, ask this horse these questions and watch them go from a horse that's standing with all 4 feet in a different position and all out of alignment in its body. And by the time we're done with this process, that horse is squared up and is straight through its body and balanced in its feet. And guess what? When it's more balanced externally, it's less likely to have health issues. Its feet are going to be more balanced. Everything about that, the mind, body, soul, every level is more balanced, more able to handle the stressors of life. So again, this book has been at least 2 years in the making. I wrote parts of it over 2 years ago, and it sat. It sat for 2 years, and I couldn't get it going. And the reason I couldn't get it going was because I needed a whole lot more evidence, experience, examples to present to strengthen even my own belief in it. And I'm going out there saying, this is the foundation that horses are missing. Everybody says it's a, riding foundation or a groundwork foundation. No, it has to start on the inside. And guess what? When you start on the inside, you don't have to do as much on the outside. It's beautiful. I got that horse, the tall Frisian that I said was out of balance and dysregulated. All he had to do is get internally balanced. Then he could think, he could follow directions, he could manage his own body. Simple. No touching, no exercises, no nothing. And this sounds like a crazy claim, but I have also thousands of videos of sessions I've done with people to say, watch, how many times did this exact same thing happen with a horse? Every single time. That's what a scientist does. They don't go out and go, oh, I have a new theory and I'm just going to go announce it to the world. No, a scientist goes and gathers data over and over and over and tries to find ways to discredit their own findings. And after 2 years plus, I have nothing but confirming information. So, it sounds crazy, but the horses gave me these questions. They told me these were the things they needed us to ask them. So it's not really even my thing I came up with. I just listened to the horse and I followed the directions. As crazy as they sounded, I followed their directives, and they were not wrong. How do we explain that, right?
Well, I think you've explained it pretty damn well, Susie, if you ask me. pretty damn well. And I can feel across the way, I can feel your heart, I can feel the intention. So, and as you're not just telling a story, you're feeling into that, because I can feel that from here with such love and genuine wanting other people to feel that too, and to see that. And as you was explaining how the horse changed their physical, if you talk to somebody that's a bit shoulders hunched and they're a bit quiet and they go around, if you smile at them and you give them a compliment, you can see them grow. I mean, I passed a little old lady today and she was on a stick and her daughter was taking her out for a coffee in a local garden centre, and she was dressed very, very beautifully, very, an older, mature lady dressed very beautifully. And I said, "You look beautiful." And she just, from a crouched little lady, she just says, "Thank you." And then her daughter smiled, and you could see her walking off a bit straighter. So that's just by being kind. And yeah, but from the heart. Right. So like you said earlier, it's not your work is with horses, but what you do, you can apply to human, to anything, because it's the same process. Do you agree?
Oh, absolutely. And I've applied for the trademark, and the trademark is dual human equine energy psychology. So I'm saying these exactly what you said, all of these principles that I'm teaching are applicable to us, and we should be practicing these same things. That's why I love doing this work, because everything that I come up with as far as an exercise that a horse and human will do together, it's for benefit of both. They may be working on slightly different things, but it's to really strengthen our own health and our like mental, emotional health, spiritual health. Okay, all of those things. So it's again, when I was saying, when I'm going through a story, maybe I'm telling this story and I'm holding a feeling of nurturing in my own body, like I'm really emoting that as I speak the words that are coming out and telling the horse a story. What am I doing? I'm really working on myself. All of those things that happen when we go into a nurturing feeling in our body, and we release endorphins and maybe some oxytocin, and all of those are really good, healthy neurohormones for our body and for our health. Look, so it's like these things that I'm asking to practice, it's like practice them deeply because they're going to help you. But guess what? They do the same exact thing to this horse. And they're responding to that feeling, not to the words as much as the feeling that they're getting when I speak the words that have the energy behind them of nurturing or safety or joy or gratitude or something. I'm going to be darn sure as I'm speaking that as that word comes out, it has the appropriate emotion and feeling attached to it. And it's just what you were talking about. That's a lovely story. When you told the woman with sincerity, you really look beautiful. That's different than, oh, you look beautiful, as a nicety, right?
Mm.
No, those are totally different things. Same words, totally different feeling. You must have said it with the appropriate feeling behind it because she responded in a way that told you you were spot on. This is the beauty of practicing this stuff that I'm talking about with our horses, is because they will tell us if we hit the mark or not. It's like, no, you got to go back and work on your nurturing, lady, because it's not, so there's some snarkiness in there or something, or something's not genuine. So it's all these things that we're practicing to be congruent and genuine. And isn't that what everybody talks about in the horses? They want congruency and genuineness. So we're going to practice those in a fun way. Tell them a story. Do these 4 questions that I have. Oh, what a great way to open up a conversation. Right? So, and practice on ourselves, and they get to practice on themselves. And I think that the amazing thing, didn't you feel like when you went and told that lady how beautiful she was, did you feel like she just reciprocated and go, oh my God, I was seen and heard and felt, and like it changed her feeling towards you, right, in that moment?
She looked like a little girl that was like, that was nice. Yeah, she was, she looked up and gave me this beautiful smile. But she was dressed very elegantly. And I says, you're putting me to shame because I'm in shorts and T-shirt and you look beautiful. Which she did. But
you see that and our horses have similar internal experiences when we do that. People will say that it's like even this other horse, you could just see him blossom, like, wow. And they will change on the outside, like almost inexplicable things, like maybe their coat gets shinier or they get some dapples, or you see them fill out a little more or stand a little bit more like, whoa, somebody saw me and they think I'm great. Wouldn't we all like that? We would all like to do that. And not in a way to just get, again, like we as humans do it all the time to each other, where we'll say, oh, you look pretty today. And it's almost like expected, rather than like you did, where you were generally compelled maybe to say something to her because it was something you wanted to respond to. And then she felt that too. And that's the connection.
I always remember somebody saying to me, if you smile at a stranger, watch it spread. And you can be going down a busy high street and you can feel like, heavy because it's a heavy day or something, and then you smile and you smile at a stranger that catches your eye, and they smile at you, and your smile gets bigger and theirs gets bigger, and you pass and you just walk a bit lighter, and they might do the same to somebody else. So
Right.
I always remember that if you smile at somebody, it's been passed on. Pass it on to somebody else.
Yeah. And think
Yeah.
about cooperation and all those things. Like these horses, it's like they've been told for so many years to do what people say, do it or else, and what if you change where they want to do something for you? That's when people go, well, what if your horse says no? And I'm like, I got to figure out another energy, because if I've got something that's compelling and interesting enough, he will say yes to whatever we do together, because it's not about what I'm asking him to do. For a horse, I think it's about, how do I feel when I'm with you? Do I feel safe? Is it, do I feel some other thing that makes me want to be in that space with you? And it doesn't matter what we're doing as long as we're doing it together. That's real partnership. That's what I'm looking for in the horse. It's like, I'm not just always standing around with a horse. I may be riding, we may be doing something very difficult, but I'm going to find a way to make that experience for that horse feel special, and that I appreciate what they're doing for me, and that I understand that it may be a hard ask. And they're like, no, we'll do it. I'm like, oh, okay. I'm always astonished. It's like, because we're taught like horses won't do certain things. It's like, well, maybe we're asking wrong. Maybe we're wrong in how we're approaching it. And I'm just going to kind of divert here a little bit, because this is something I see often with people and their horses, is that they want to go hang out with their horse, and they're all wonderful and soft and lovely when they're hanging out with their horse. And then all of a sudden they turn into somebody completely different when they go to ride, or go to put a saddle on, or go to get a horse in a trailer. All of a sudden their task-oriented mindset, got to get her done, got to get it done fast, has to be this. They change their internal energy to such an extent that horse does not recognize them and goes, wow, all that tension, I think I'll just do a hard pass on whatever you're doing there. One of the hardest things for us is to not be task-oriented when we're doing a task. Okay, and understand, what does it feel like inside when I get all in my mental head, focus, hard focus, and human-y, and all those kind of things. What must that feel like to a horse? We disconnect from them. We go into a beta brainwave, which is high brainwave state. It gets all staticky in our head, and they're like, I can't hear you anymore, because now you've got tension in your body, it's static in your brain, something must be wrong. I think I better put the brakes on. Instead of, oh, here's this hard thing we're going to do, but I'm going to make sure my body stays relaxed, and my brain does, and I just soft focus, and they just go, oh, okay, whatever. It's these things that seem simple, but very, very hard to do as a human, right? Because as soon as we start
Me included.
Yeah, well, everybody. I mean, isn't it true in our world that we've been trained that the harder you try and the more you do and the more you get in that really hard state of, get her done, that you're going to succeed? It might be true in some instances in the human world, but not for horses. They don't buy into that one at all. I can tell you. So that's why sometimes you can hand a horse over to somebody else and the horse does something you were struggling with. It's like, well, why was he doing it for them and not me? Well, because you wanted it too much, or you tried too hard, or you got too into yourself, or you doubted yourself. I mean, that could be all of these different things that might be happening, right?
Doubt is a very big, doubting, Thomas. Yeah. And you can have it there and you think, I know that, I feel that. And then all of a sudden, chat comes in, and
Right.
it just wipes it out, which, is a hard one. And you'll always have, you can't be perfect the whole time, because life is around you, and you have triggers and stimulation and things going on, but it's learning to just take a step back, take a breath, or just be aware of your own being and your own energy, even if it's just for a few seconds. So it's that strengthens that muscle.
Right. And I think, one of my goals with this book is that we help our horses become really strong, internally balanced. And so that when we're not as strong, something comes up, that horse will step up and take over instead of crumbling because you did. He's going to go, hey, I got you today. I'm going to always be honest with my horse. If I go out there and go, hey, I'm just not 100% today. And if my horse is really emotionally balanced and mentally and energetically and all the levels of balance, he's going to go, you know what? I'm pretty balanced today. Don't worry about it. I know you're trying. I can do it today. So that's my goal in all of this, is that we don't have to be perfect all the time. We don't have to be mentally strong every moment. But when we're not, can they be? And when they're not, can we be? And I have horses that can model safety for a person. You've probably seen them. They go, yeah, got it. You're falling apart. I got you. I'm going to hold this space. And then the person all of a sudden feels better. Okay. And I'm not saying use another being's nervous system to regulate yourself, but just be aware that you don't have to be perfect every minute, and you can be honest with your horse in that way. And that's congruency also. I'm not 100% today. They go, that's okay. I am. Because I've worked on these things with you.
And that's the beauty. That's the beauty of it. You are such a wealth of knowledge, Susie. And do you know what I was thinking when you was talking? You should do one of those bedtime stories for humans, because your voice is just so lovely and just so relaxing, and you could just absorb that while you go off to sleep. Maybe that's your next book.
You say something funny because people drop like flies sometimes at my gatherings. It's like, oh, I was just I'm like, it's okay. You probably needed sleep anyway. I'm not offended. Just sleep away.
Yeah, well, horses do that, don't they? They just go off for a snooze and relax. I mean, that's normally seen as a compliment. So if somebody goes to sleep, as long as they're not snoring.
Well, yeah, there's that.
So would you like to tell us about your upcoming visit to the UK? Because I know a few years ago that you was talking about it, but the dots didn't all line up. So I'm so excited to know that you're coming next year.
Yes, it will be around this time of year. I should have got the dates right in front of me, and I don't recall what they are. And there's a span of time that I'm going to be, but it's the end of August of 2027 that I'll be there. And you asked me, see, now I'm on the spot. Like, I'm not sure I remember the name of the town that we're going to be in.
Newark, but I can put a link up for that. So
yeah, we can put the link up. I apologize because I've been gone. I was in California for about 2 weeks straight, and so I have very few brain cells that I'm working with today. So I apologize for that. But it's going to be super fun, and I think it'll be just an opportunity. And I would suggest, if anybody is in the UK and they're interested in coming, I would say read the new books before you come, because then you're going to be really up to speed with what's happening, and you're going to understand what's going on. Because I think sometimes people come, and because this is really different than what you usually do at a horse clinic, that they're kind of lost for a little bit unless they know theories from what I'm working from, and are familiar with some of the things that I do. And then if they're familiar, they can sit there and watch and say, oh, this is what it looks like in practice.
So is it a small gathering? I know you like a smaller clinic, don't you? So it's more intimate.
Yeah, I think so. And then I'm going to do some private sessions with people, because I think I always find that in the private sessions that more can happen because we don't have to deal with all the other energies that are coming to a gathering, because there can be people there that are frightened by something or confused, doubting, or they're communicating with the horse while I'm trying to talk. All these things can be happening. So there's a lot of really conflicting energies at a gathering that is hard to really manage a lot of times. And it can be confusing for the horse getting all of these different signals. And so I think, for the fact that horses can still do this work in a gathering with a lot of people watching is really testament to it. But I also think in some ways it's just so much easier when the horse doesn't have to, and when the person doesn't feel like they're up there on stage either, and I don't blame them. It's like, I wouldn't want to be up there with a clinician and I'm not sure what they're going to do to me or what's going to come up, because I don't give them a whole lot of information. If they ask, like, what are we going to do? I'm like, I don't know. You're as clueless as I am. We're going to go with what the horse shows us and we'll take it from there. And there has to be a lot of trust on the part of the people coming to my gatherings to say, you know what? I don't know, but I like the philosophy. And if anything, you'll have a good rest. I'll put you to sleep and you'll feel really good when you're done. So that's the biggest downside to it, right?
So when you do the one-to-ones, are they going to be at the venue, or will you go see people?
I believe the plan was to go to some other farms to work.
Okay. Yeah.
I would prefer, a lot of times I think there's a whole lot of stress in a horse coming to a different venue and having to adjust to all that and then try to do this really deep work. And a lot of times it does work better if we can go to their place of residence. And, that's why Zoom calls, it would seem like Zoom wouldn't work that well, but it actually works really, really good for this kind of work, because the horse is in its natural environment with its people. There's no other people watching, and it seems to go really well.
Yeah, I find that as well. That sometimes, and you just go straight to it. You're not being distracted by everything else.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I'm just going to see if anybody would like to ask any questions. So we have some viewers. So if anybody would like to ask Dr. Susie a question, then please do. And while we're waiting, sometimes there's a bit of a delay, so we'll see if anything pops up. But I'm just trying to think of any other questions. I think you've really talked quite a lot about your work. One thing I will say, as you were talking earlier, and you was relaying the story about the horse and how they transformed, and the one that you sent off and came back, and as you were telling the story, and your voice slows down, and like I said, I just could feel that energy. I hope you don't mind me saying this, but your pony that you used to have when you was little, the one you used to ride, was just popping in and so excited because sharing in that energy. So when I'm saying that, obviously it's a pony that's no longer here in physical form, and almost wanted to be say I'm part of that. I'm part of that Susie's talking about. I'm part of that. Yeah, but it was literally. So I'm saying it to you in words, but it was the feel and the glow from you that your horse, your pony, your childhood pony was coming through, and it was lovely. It was really lovely.
And I think they were my teachers. I hope, I take guidance from the horses, and hopefully I'm going out there and speaking their words as best I can, translating them into some sort of human language.
So when you've been around lots of people, lots of horses, what do you do to just you probably don't do anything to ground yourself, just to just get back to nature? What do you do to relax?
It's so funny because I've been doing this so long that I'm always there. And one of the ways I got there was through the elliptical breathing that I did a course on elliptical breathing called the Sacred Breath. And that was another one that I studied for quite a while. It's like, what could I do that would help me as an empath be able to stay completely present, but filter through all of that extra energy and feelings and stuff that is coming in, and ground me and do all of the, heighten my intuition. All of these things were things that I was studying, like what would I do? And so it came down to, I would breathe this particular way, and it would help me no matter whether I was working with horses or in my human life. See, I'm always going back and forth. What am I doing with horses so that I don't have to change when I go into my human life, that they just kind of start to blend together. And so this breathing method, the elliptical breathing that I'm doing, is a filtration system for other energies coming in. So I'm always drawing breath from the ground, bringing it up. And as it comes up through my body, it pushes out anything that's not mine. So I put an intention on the energy and the breath that it remove what doesn't belong to me or is not necessary for my understanding. And then, so every breath cycle essentially is a cleansing cycle and a grounding cycle. So if I do that all the time, because I've practiced this breathing for decades, it's so natural that I don't have to necessarily prepare, because I'm already am. And that's, I think, part of this work is like, we don't separate it from like our human life, from our horse time to people time to whatever. It's all the same, and we're always connected and grounded. I'm always connected to the other sources of information, which I think is the intuition, or I call it the internet of intuition sometimes, where I gather information, but it's almost always on, which is hard to describe, I guess, but it takes a lot of practice before you go, oh, I don't feel any different no matter what situation. Or if I get caught up, and you probably have walked into situations like, and then you start feeling something, or your heart rate goes up, or something happens, and you go, oh, let me take my breath, and I'm just going to recycle it until it's gone. And usually 1 or 2 breath cycles, I can be right back into that heart coherence place. And for me, I'm usually at about, if you do the breathing course and you practice this breathing, you will be probably at about 3 to 4 breaths a minute, which is full body, full oxygenation, full energetic communication type of breathing. So once you practice that, then you're always there. So it's pretty cool.
That's why you look so youthful, Susie.
I'm not, yeah, you haven't seen the rest. No.
It's the breathing, it's the oxygen that's getting to your system.
It's the oxygen. And if you take my breath course, it's like, there's so many benefits to this breathing. And one of them is your immune system is really strengthened. And there's just so many other health benefits. And just a little aside, and not to sell the program or anything. The veterinarian I work with, she's been doing this elliptical breathing for a couple of years now, and she went and did a pulmonary function test, a very extensive one where you put you in a container, and there's all these special things they're doing. And when she got out, the technician was saying, you're either messing with me, or you've been doing some kind of very long-term breathing technique, because your pulmonary function at 68 years old is 120% of normal. So they kept thinking something like she was messing with him. They said, oh, you were at 4 breaths a minute. And she goes, oh, really? I'm usually at 3. I must have been a little anxious. So, one of the things as we breathe fuller and slower, we create this energetic, safe space for our horses. That's why I'm doing this breathing. It instantly communicates safety and trust with a horse. So
beautiful, beautiful, Susie, beautiful. So I don't think we've got any questions. or they're not
Okay.
popping up. Sometimes they just don't pop until later. Is there any, before we sort of wrap this up, is there anything that parting words that you'd like to share, or just words of encouragement for maybe somebody that's sort of tried and they've just sort of lost a bit of hope, or just something you can give them, as apart from your book, obviously?
Well, if you lose hope, I always go back to a time when I was showing horses, and I think that people were just like, "Oh my God, could there be anybody worse than you?" Right? Like, you are just a disaster. And so I always think, like, I remember kind of really focusing on a lot of these things back then, and maybe it took me about a year at practicing breathing and different mental training techniques and emotional training techniques, and it came back like I went to a show and it was like they were going, "Who are you?" Because it was such a difference. Like, you're not the goober you used to be. Like, what happened to you? And it's like, okay, so I want to give people that feeling like I did not start here. It took a lot of work because I wanted it to be different with me and my horses. I wanted a different type of relationship. And so I was willing to work and do the things, even when they seemed hard. I kept the final goal in place. And I want to say that whenever it feels the hardest and the most you want to give up is when you need to press on, because that's when everything's going to start to open up. And know that I'm here, Dr. Ev's helping me out with a lot of this stuff, and we're here as hopefully as cheerleaders, and know that your horses want you to be, the best you can be, and they will support you. It's amazing if you ask them for help, what they do. They go, "We gotcha. We gotcha." So, I'm not doing this at this time in my life when I could be retired and sitting on a beach and drinking fruity drinks or something. And I could be doing that, but I'm doing this because this is super important. Because I love horses so much and I love people, and I want everybody to feel what this is like and know that you have support here, and we all struggle. But we all need somebody to say, "Hey, I'm holding safety and comfort for you today." And you go, "I feel it."
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Well, Susie, thank you so much for coming on as a guest and sharing some of your insights and about your work. It's beautiful as always. I will share links to the UK trip and your books once they come out. I will put the links on as well and share those if they're not out already. So I'm going to pop you out. If you'd like to say bye, but just
Okay.
hang on a second and I'll have a little word before you go. Is that okay?
Yes, absolutely.
Thank you. See you in a bit. Wow. Susie is an amazing lady, and it takes guts and courage to, like she said, she could retire. I don't think she's a lady to have pina coladas on the beach, really, but yeah, I think she'd find that boring actually. But yeah, to do what she does and to stand there and to say, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what I'm going to do. It takes courage. And I know things are changing and people want something different because I think they can feel it. There's definitely changes in the air and has been for a while. And it's something that we're all capable of doing, even if it's just for a few seconds. Never doubt your own capabilities. And you know that when your horse comes and maybe just stands with you and puts their nose on your shoulder, or just looks at you in a certain way, and you can feel that, but then they might go off and do the normal thing. You're connecting, you're feeling, you're sensing the animal. The same as a stranger, if you smile at them and they smile back, you feel that glow within you. So it's there, and it's just something to build on. And sometimes we need a map because there's so much info. Where do I go? How do I start this? And then once you have a starting point, then that's what you can build on. So I'm looking forward to Susie's trip next year, and hopefully I might get to see her and meet for a coffee. That would be lovely. Anyway, thank you everybody that joined us. Sorry for the bit of glitches at the beginning. See, I came in shallow breathing because the tech wasn't working quite as I wanted. So straight away there's that energy, and then when you come down, it changes. So nothing's perfect. You know, these aren't perfect. They are as they are. But the intention is to share knowledge. So I hope that's what we've done. And I look forward to any feedback and any messages for Susie, I can pass them on to. So on that note, thank you very, very much for sharing some of your time with me. I hope you enjoyed this podcast, and I hope you enjoy listening to Susie. Take care, lots of love, and speak to you soon. Bye for now. When I can click the end bit. Bye.